Late one night in Hong Kong, a city that never sleeps, a young girl arrived alone at a police station. She was stressed and agitated. The police took the girl into a comfortable room, to settle her down before speaking. What came out from her mouth would become so disturbing that this case would forever be known as the Hello Kitty murder. Welcome to Request for Inspection. Sit back, relax, and concentrate, as the coming crime recap is not for the faint-hearted. The young girl would later be known as Ah Fong, most probably a pseudonym, given to her by the courts for her protection. She told the police officers that she was being haunted by the spirit of a young woman whom had met a tragic ending. According to Ah Fong, who was 14 years old at the time, the spirit belonged to a 23-year-old woman named Fan Man Yee, and it had began haunting her at night. As the officers listened, an unthinkable story unraveled itself, and it began with Ah Fong and her 33-year-old boyfriend, Fan Man Yee, a 33-year-old Chinese mafia, pimp and drug dealer. Ah Fong claimed she worked for him as a sex worker, and admittedly participated in events which she believed led to the death and dismemberment of Fan Man Yee. After confessing her story, the Hong Kong police granted the teenager Ah Fong immunity if she testified against the men in court. She took the offer. The victim was named Fan Man Yee. She was 23 years old at the time of her demise. Fan Man Yee lived a difficult life. As a child she was abandoned by her parents, and she grew up in an orphanage until she turned 16. Since the orphanage could no longer provide for her, Fan Man Yee had to make her own way. Fan got pregnant but later gave up her baby son when he was born. The young woman simply couldn't support a family and turned to prostitution to survive, possibly coping by using drugs. She entered the sex work industry where drugs and crimes became commonplace for her. Eventually, she found work as a nightclub hostess in 1997. One of Fan's regular customers was a wealthy man and well-known triad, Fan Man Yee. The triads are organized criminals, like mafia, who commit a variety of crimes, from fraud, extortion, and money laundering to trafficking, drugs, and counterfeiting. The members of such gangs exert power through wealth and influence, and their behavior is frequently unchallenged. One night, Fan made the dire mistake of stealing Chan's wallet, which contained the equivalent of around $4,000. Fan returned the money when she was caught, but Chan demanded an additional $10,000, apparently to make up for stealing from him. Fan didn't have the money, and before she could repay Chan, he kidnapped her with the help of 27-year-old Leung Shing-cho and 21-year-old Leung Wei-lun. They took Fan to an apartment at number 31 Granville Road, Tsim Sha Tsui. She would never leave the apartment. Locked in this dingy apartment which full of Hello Kitty memorabilia, Fan was beaten and raped by multiple men, as well as being offered to paying customers. For days and weeks, Fan endured unspeakable tortures at the hands of Chan and others. Sometimes, Chan would bring along Ah Fong, his then 13-year-old girlfriend, and have the child participate. In the room next door to Fan's torture room, the men enjoyed food and video games, along with drugs. The torture escalated and Fan was beaten with weapons of all descriptions and even force-fed her own feces. Soon, clients would not pay to have sex with Fan, and so the men simply used her for their own pleasure, finding ever more creative ways to inflict maximum pain upon the young woman. They severely beat Fan with metal rods and kitchen utensils, sometimes hanging her from the ceiling like a punching bag. They also poured boiling hot plastic from melted straws onto the soles of her feet so that she was unable to run or escape the apartment. Chili powder and other spices would be rubbed into Fan's wounds to maximize her suffering. According to Ah Fong's testimony, on one occasion, she watched as Chan kicked Fan approximately 50 times, and she joined in by hitting the 23-year-old woman with her hand. The teenager also admitted to participating in other acts of torture, and when authorities questioned her about her motives, she chillingly said, "I had a feeling it was for fun." Is it really possible that with such violent torture activities, that no clues or sounds would have penetrated the walls of the apartment? Did anyone, neighbors or people on the street, hear what was happening behind closed doors? It is difficult to fathom that this all went on in the dark. One evening following another terrible bout of torture, Fan was left alone in the apartment. Upon return, Ah Fong found Fan's abused and lifeless body in the bathtub. Fan had either succumbed of her torture and died, or what many believed, had lost the will to live on. The group led by Chan decided that they needed to reduce the body, in order to dispose of it. As well as cutting Fan's body into pieces, They boiled it so that the flesh could be removed and disposed of more easily in regular household trash. Once they'd accomplished their aim, they hid various body parts in different places. Sickeningly, some of Fan's organs were kept in the fridge. The police recovered a mermaid Hello Kitty doll. The stuffed toy appeared to have been opened, then sewn shut, and when investigators reopened the toy, they discovered Fan's skull. The media ran with this information, and Fan's death quickly became known as the Hello Kitty murder. Back in the police station, officers accepted Ah Fong's story. Although they understood the haunting to be guilt and post-traumatic stress, they acted on the information she gave. Following the arrest of Chen and his two accomplices, police built a damning case, with a significant amount of physical evidence collected from the apartment. However, in the end, police recovered only Fan's skull and a single tooth, along with some internal organs the man had placed in the apartment's refrigerator. As fate would have it, and in a cruel, diabolical twist, due to the state of Fan's remains, examiners were unable to determine the exact cause of her death. With the defense arguing that Fan had died of a drug overdose following years of addiction, the prosecution was unable to prove categorically that she had been murdered. They argued the man had not intended to kill her, although her death may have been a result of their actions. Thus, the men were tried and, unbelievably, convicted only of manslaughter. Chen and his men were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 20 years. The 14-year-old Ah Fong was protected from any charges in exchange for her testimony. It's unknown what became of her, and her identity was protected for legal reasons. People were reported visiting the building where the murder took place to see if they could contact Fan Man Yee's spirit. The building was demolished in 2012 and rebuilt into a hotel in 2016. The story became so famous that it led to the production of several movies, such as There Is a Secret in My Soup in 2001, and Bones Season 4 episode titled The Girl in the Mask. Was Fan Man Yee, the victim of the Hello Kitty murder, eager for justice to be served, and really came back to haunt the little girl? Or was it the tormenting nightmares of a guilty 14-year-old? Without Ah Fong turning herself into the police station, this horrific murder may never have come to light. The Hello Kitty murder goes down in Hong Kong's history as one of the most horrendous criminal acts ever committed. Her death shocked the city, and was recorded as one of the most horrific crimes ever committed. Thanks for watching, please subscribe, and come back for more gruesome crimes that shook the world.